रंग मन में दिखाए प्रकाशित। भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। What is knowledge? Knowledge is a change in our personality. It is becoming a different person. You cannot claim to have knowledge, to have gained some knowledge, and have continued to be the same person before. So gaining knowledge is really a change in our personality. Now, what is it causes this personality to change? When you reflect upon that knowledge, as you think about it, think about it, think about it, in all the various ways that we have already outlined, the penny drops, as it were. It becomes clear to you what it was. And when it's clear to you, there's no question of doing anything else. If it's clear to you that fire burns, there's no question of doing anything other than keeping the distance you want for that kind of heat. If it's clear to you that the tiger is a carnivorous being, you know what to do. So knowledge is getting the kind of clarity that impacts our life. This clarity comes because of the reflection on the ideas. It is not about memorizing something. It is not about knowing something in the sense, yeah, I've studied Vedanta. I know that there's this book. I know that there is Gita, and I know there's Brahma Sutras, and I know that there are Upanishads. It's not about that, but being a different person. And that is the whole problem with every form of education today, both material education as well as spiritual education. Even in spiritual education, it's all about how much you can quote a book, how much, the scholars of religion. It's all about who knows which ritual, who knows what. This is all information. In your particular religion, it is done in a particular way, which is wonderful. And in some other place, it will be done in another way, which is equally wonderful. Each person follows their own. And if you can get the main idea in your own religion, you will understand how every religion says exactly the same thing. Similarly, in the material field, if you understand your own field well, you will understand how those principles are applicable across other fields as well. So that's the kind of knowledge we should get. That's the kind of maturity that has to come with knowledge. Not all sorts of information, information mongering. What are we going to do with this information? So for that reflection. Now, I say reflection, the problem is then people can do it, but do it incorrectly. So we understood what knowledge was, then we understood that we need to reflect for it, and then we also understood what are the care we take while we are reflecting. You shouldn't go down the wrong street. And once this is done, then it's that moment of intuition or epiphany or whatever word you want to use, where you just get it. Now, some people will argue and say, क्यों हमको इतना तंग कर रहे हो? If there is something good for us to know, just tell us that thing and we'll do it. Why do I need all this information? Why do I need to gain knowledge? Why all this long natak? Many people think, whatever's right, just tell me, I will do it. Don't give me this long natak of understand and all this too much. So for what do we have to do understand? Remember, we studied that. Why do we require a greater understanding or a greater knowledge? Why do we require it?
To connect with the higher.
Why?
When you go to the higher, lower drops.
Okay. But remember, we did defense of knowledge. People do not know that the sun is going, that the earth is going around the sun. How is that bothering their life? To develop the desire. What happened to you all? All last class was all useless. Nobody paid any attention to control the future. If you wish to control the future, you will have to have higher knowledge. Because you're to have greater control, correct? The more your knowledge, the greater the control you will have. Now just think about it. That what is it? A kadia, the mason. If you tell him build a wall, he'll build a wall. He knows how to do it. But the architect has got so much more that architect can do, right? It's not just build a wall. He can make like a, 100-story building or something. He can make that 100-story building under many different kind of conditions. So the more your knowledge is, the greater becomes your capacity for control. The higher and higher knowledge is, the more and more you can control. You gain the capacity of control. And when you gain the capacity of control, then you're it's very easy for you to direct your life in the way you would like it to go. So knowledge, it's not for everybody really. Even when we make the university, we want to make a niche university for a few people. It's not for mass consumption because the masses don't want this. So for a few people who wish to apply their intellects, and if we do this correctly, we'll just have a little body of people who will, capable of influencing the whole world. So it's the people who have that intellect will understand the need for knowledge. It's not just about, okay, like I think this is a very good example. A person doesn't know that the earth goes around the sun. And so many people didn't know it. So how was their life affected by it? Not at all, right? They still were born and they still grew up and they still did whatever career they wanted or got married. They gained maybe reputation in their communities. They had children, they had grandchildren. They did good, they did bad, whatever they did, they lived their whole life. What did they miss? And that is how 99% of humanity will live. If you want to be in that 1%, then that's a very different kind of life. Where you have greater control, where you can think beyond yourself, where what you do influences a much wider spectrum, a much wider arena. Okay. So, in defense of knowledge, greater knowledge gives greater control. Okay. Last topic was clear or not clear? Because you all seemed a bit. Okay, all good so far? Now we can go to what happens after knowledge. The next stage from knowledge is nididhyasana. Remember 3 stages: Shravana, where you listen; Manana, where you think; and nididhyasana, which is meditation. So you go from knowledge to meditation. Nididhyasana or meditation. I hope you will have registered how long has been our journey before we've even started speaking about this. And yet today, everybody wants what I'm going to do spiritual thing. What am I going to do? Sit down in meditation. Imagine we are on page 255, where the first time we are mentioning this. Nididhyasana or meditation. Nididhyasana is the third and last stage of knowledge. It is the third and last stage of knowledge. So now, Shravana was a certain kind of thing. Manana was a completely different kind of thing, right? And now Nididhyasana is a third completely different kind of thing. It is the becoming, the transformation, the experience. Nididhyasana is meditation, which is the ultimate gateway to absolute knowledge. It is the intellect keeping the mind on single pointed focus. I can't see below. Can you take the page up a bit? The last word is the. So the purpose is to crush all thoughts out of existence. Nididhyasana or meditation is said to give absolute knowledge. It is no longer relative. The end point of knowledge. It is a state where one knows all. Is such a state possible? That is for each person to find out. But given below is the explanation of the phenomenon. All right, so when we learned about knowledge, we understood knowledge as first and foremost information, and then it is manana, which is able to make a difference in our nature, in our action. But the third stage of knowledge is not just a vyavaharik difference in knowledge, not just something different you're doing in the world. First you were selfish, now you're unselfish, now you're very unselfish. It's not just the difference in the world. It is going to become absolute knowledge, which is not relative. It is the end point of knowledge, where you're going to know everything. Now, is this possible? You can decide for yourself. But here is the explanation. The Veda. What happened, Manish?
Sorry, it's behaving really oddly today. Can you read the last sentence, last line?
Yes, it is no longer relative. The end. Yeah, I can read it. The Vedantic concept of knowledge says knowledge is the absence of vasanas or desires. True, not this everyone is clear about. Is anyone not clear about this sentence? Because we've done this multiple times, I'm not going again into it. Knowledge is the absence of vasanas. That's why your action will differ, right? Because the vasana is no longer there. So how will you do that thing? True knowledge is the unfoldment of the self. All else is ignorance. So knowledge, according to Vedanta, eventually is the self, because that's the state of zero vasana. Avidya, ignorance, is another name for vasanas. It is said to be unknowable by the intellect. It is the ignorance of the self which is unknowable, inconceivable. It is impossible to define or understand. So if you're struggling to understand, don't worry, not you, nobody understands. The Vedantic sentence, when ignorance goes, knowledge dawns, uses the term ignorance not in the English way. It is the Sanskrit avidya translated into English as ignorance. Literally, it is non-knowledge. The word refers to vasanas, the ignorance of the self. So its non-literal meaning is when desires go, knowledge dawns. So just think about this. If you will know something only when you don't have a desire pertaining to it, when will you know everything? You'll know something when you don't have a desire pertaining to it. So when will you know everything? Why are you all blanked out today?
When we are self-realized.
No, follow the logic. You will know something when you don't have a desire pertaining to it. You understand toys because you don't have a desire pertaining to it. Correct, Gitanjali. Very good. So when you don't have a desire for something, you will understand it, you will know it. So when will you know everything? When?
When you have no desires.
Yeah. Why are you all getting so confused? Clear or not, everyone? Clear or not? Yeah, okay. So,
Yes.
in Vedantic terminology, knowledge is total absence of desires. You have no vasanas at all. Then you have knowledge because that's the state of the self. Okay, you're such ominous silence I'm facing. I have no idea what is going on. And since we are so few, why don't more of you put on the video because. All right, clear. Our next step is Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is what is going to lead us to zero desires and therefore full knowledge. Topic clear? Now it's all very clear. Now it's very simple topics, all of them. All the difficult part is over. All this is simple because this is so far away from us, we just have to know it as a matter of information. Ultimate knowledge. But what lies beyond thought? If we were to remove subjectivity completely from the equation, not have a thought at all, what would it be? Suppose you were liberated from thoughts, what would your knowledge be? What is that ultimate isness? If there were no thought, how would we know it? Currently, you know everything through thoughts. So even if you do know that, finally, but you don't have a thought, how will you know it? To get beyond thought, one needs to bring the multiplicity of thoughts to a single thought. Single pointed thought is called meditation. So, the penultimate state to complete knowledge is meditation. To gain the knowledge of the ultimate truth, one sits in the silence of meditation. Thought leads to thoughtlessness. All reflection culminates in silence. Through meditation, one achieves the ultimate isness. What saints and philosophers have called ultimate knowledge or enlightenment. So if you have to get to know thought, the penultimate stage, the stage, one stage before it, has to be, what is before zero?
A state of single thought.
Single thought. So it has to become to one, right? You have so many thoughts. So they have to become less and less and less. And they'll probably come to 10, 5, 1. And only from 1 you can go to 0. So the penultimate, just before the ultimate, what will it be? It will be one thought. And when that thought goes, and you come to 0 thought, and that is enlightenment or ultimate knowledge. Would complete knowledge dawn when all thoughts are gone? How can there be knowledge without thought? Knowledge is the capacity to see something for what it is. Knowledge in the ultimate sense is the capacity to cognize the reality, divinity, or whatever else one calls the ultimate isness. It answers the question, what is really there? But if all thoughts are gone, how is it possible to know anything? Let us investigate in the next chapter. So don't worry if this was not very clear, because the whole next chapter is only for understanding this. In summary, just a summary of our chapter. Acquisition of knowledge means a change in one's nature. Knowledge is relative. There are different levels of knowledge. At any point, the higher is knowledge and the lower is ignorance. I hope this point has been at least somewhat clarified in your mind. That knowledge and ignorance are not two opposing things, but steps on a ladder. Do you remember the example we discussed about this?
Francis, you are asking me.
Anyone? Today everybody's asleep. What is going on? Why don't you put on your videos so at least I can see what the situation is? Thank you, Gitanj. Who else wants to put on their video? Please put on. Why are you all loving this parda so much? I don't know. All right. So, remember, anyone remembers? Nobody remembers?
Trough, water trough?
Sorry?
Is it water trough? That water and reflection.
No. Who is speaking? I can't see anymore. Nowadays, I don't understand why I don't see the persons who are, first when someone speaks, the box would go green, but nowadays that doesn't happen anymore. Nobody remembers? Very sad. Remember a small girl, a 5-year-old girl, draws a
Picture of the house.
very good, finally, picture of the house. You look at it, you say it is a house. Okay, then at 15, she draws a picture of the house. Again, you look at it and you say it's a house. Then at 24, she's an architect and again she draws a picture of the house. Right? So the first picture, was it wrong? Or was the second picture wrong? Or is this one that she draws as an architect correct? Will she not draw better ones in the future? So at what stage do you say this was right? Every stage, whatever she did was a house. So this is a very important part of learning about Vedanta. Because if this is there in your head, there is no quarrel with anyone. Just as when you see a person drawing a house, you don't say, oh, what a stupid house. You don't say it when the person is 5, you don't say it when the person is 15, and you don't say it when the person is 24. Because all of them are a house, and all of them are, you can even say all of them are incomplete and insufficient, no? So everybody doing whatever they're doing from their level is justified. And the same person from a higher level is not. And from a lower person, he's just excelling. From a lower perspective, he's just excelling. This thing is maybe difficult to wrap our head around, but it's a very important facet of knowledge. Because the moment we get it, there is no argument with anybody about anything, because they are right from wherever they are. Okay, let's continue. Subtler means more pervasiveness and control. Hence, subtler knowledge is more useful. More useful in the sense it will cover more area. The more you understand principles, the more applicable they are over a wider range, and therefore gives you greater control, and therefore more useful. There are 3 stages in the acquisition of knowledge: listening, reflecting, and meditation. Reflection leads to clarity, digestion of knowledge. There are methods of reflection and also cautions in reflection. The yardstick of all knowledge is that actions come from understanding and not craving. I think everybody has to underline this line. The yardstick of knowledge is that actions come from understanding, not craving. When you are about to perform the action you wish to perform, you really have to stop and ask yourself, is this what I want to do? Or is it coming from my understanding? Now, the trick in this whole thing is, what you want to do is always a result of
desires.
Of what you want to do, means your desire, is always the result of your thought. What happened today is though, I don't know what is going on with this class. Whatever you want to do in this world is always a result of all your,
Understanding.
Very good. Who said that?
Yes, I'm Komal here. I'm just
Komal, yes, very good.
I'm sitting in a room. I'm in a function, and so I'm putting the video off.
Okay. So we have always got a craving only where we have an understanding. Correct? You cannot want something you have not understood. Now, when a person is craving to drink alcohol, his understanding is that alcohol is a great, source of happiness. That person, when his craving is to look after his family, I have to earn, I have to do something for my family, whatever, what is his understanding? Always that looking after my family is the greatest source of it. Suppose a person wants to serve society and he has a craving. Where is that craving coming from? It's coming from his understanding that serving society is the greatest form of happiness. Now, here's the trick. This is why it's so difficult to tell whether your mind or your intellect is determining your action. Because, that's what I think is right. You can fool yourself. You can fool all of us. But you can't fool the law. The only person who may be able to tell is probably a teacher or somebody, who's more grown than you. Because when you think that you're doing something out of understanding, for that person, it's very clear that you're doing it out of craving. It's a very, very interesting thing. And you yourself will experience that with people who know less than you. They will justify their action. They will tell you that that is the right action and things like that. But you can clearly see this is a result of craving, not of understanding. That doesn't help us, right? That we can see other people. We have to see it when we do it. So very, very careful when we want to do something. Very, very careful. Must go very carefully when you want to do something, because you can always, because it is a fact that it is the result of your understanding. But are you applying your intellect or not? You will have to be very carefully see whether you are doing that. Are you real? Have you come to this conclusion out of thought, or have you come to this conclusion because you're just longing to do something? So this is a very important
Sankiti,
point. Yeah.
sorry. So can we say that craving comes from right or wrong understanding then?
No, comes from understanding, because we don't we never say wrong understanding. We say higher and lower. So whatever your understanding is, remember the girl and her drawings.
Yes.
So what is your understanding will be your craving and your action. So for Mahatma Gandhi, his craving may be for the nation, because that's his understanding. But the problem is, even at the level of the nation, it can still be a craving. This is a problem. Jaya, can you explain digestion of knowledge? Where are you, Jaya? Which Jaya is this? Now we have so many Jayas in class, I don't know. Which Jaya? Will you put on your video, Jaya, or at least tell me your full name?
Jayachandran from Tamil Nadu.
Another Jaya completely.
Okay, madam.
All right. Okay. So Jayachandran, a digestion of knowledge comes through reflection. Digestion of knowledge means it is not an information we hold, but something that is ruling our actions. We are behaving like that. Okay, so every one of us, for instance, knows that we should have self-control, for instance. But when we behave like that, then it is considered to be digested knowledge. For instance, suppose you know that in this glass there's cyanide. You will have no interest whatsoever in drinking because you know it. It's a digested knowledge. But a child who doesn't understand what cyanide is is saying, why can't I try it? Let me try and see what happens. So though he's heard cyanide is poison, he still has, let me see. Maybe it won't be poison. This is information. But digested knowledge means your actions have changed in accordance to that. Okay, it has become you. It has become your desire. Okay.
Digestion means taking some useful to our mind, except other like a food digestion.
Yeah. So when you digest food, that food becomes your body, right?
Okay.
There's
essential components are absorbed in our digestive system, and others are excreted. So
yes.
The same thing is happened in knowledge.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
The same thing.
Suppose an elephant, it takes a lot of hay on his back. It is a burden on him, right? It is not his nutrition. So similarly, we take a lot of knowledge on our back, but that becomes burden on us. It's not nutrition.
I understood after giving this example, elephant. Thank you, ma'am.
Janki, what is meditation, which is the stage following reflection in this context of knowledge?
Thoughtlessness.
Sorry?
A single thought.
Okay, so that's the progression,
Yeah.
which we will go into the next chapter.
Yeah.
So we haven't covered meditation as yet with respect to knowledge.
We did the introductory part, but of course we'll do it in more detail in the next chapter. Eventually, all these thoughts have to merge into one thought.
Jankiji, so the answer to whether it's craving or understanding, you said that it's impossible for the individual to know. Only
Not
a higher knowledge.
impossible. No, not impossible. You have to be very cautious. Now, Bharat, when you get married, how will you know whether you're marrying this person from understanding or from craving? Difficult, no? So be cautious. Don't be so cautious that you never end up marrying anyone. But you have
So
to
I'll
be
come to your
cautious.
house every day.
Okay. Do whatever you want, be cautious. So it's difficult. It's always difficult because we're always standing on that cusp. You're craving it because you understand it. But your understanding is not driving this action. And in standing on that cusp, you have to finally decide now what you're doing. It's not easy. It's not easy for anybody. But you just maybe get better. But it never becomes completely easy because your mind can go off like that in a second. Like Mahatma Gandhi, for instance, and I mean, I'm just putting data, okay? I don't know. I'm not commenting on this. When he agreed to partition, was that agreement out of craving or understanding? When he agreed to
Craving.
We don't know. We don't know. We won't comment on it.
But I was going to say, Janki, Bharat, why should Janki ji suffer because you chose to get married? You're going to land up at her house every day.
No, before marriage, I'll seek a wise counsel.
Okay.
So we have, it's so tough, right? Even for Gandhi. And we all accept that he's a nobler soul than us. But still, is it craving or is it understanding? It's not that this happens only to us and it doesn't happen at higher levels. No, it happens at all stages. Is it craving or is it understanding? Difficult to tell.
For a noble soul like him, it won't be out of craving only. He fought for craving and he didn't give up everything. Like he was a Mahatma, we call it. So must be out of understanding only. That's what is coming to.
No, not necessary. I mean, you can debate it both ways. The fact is, we don't know. We cannot answer for him.
Okay. So only the person who is doing that action, he only knows whether it is craving.
Yeah. He and those above him.
Okay.
So he will know and people above him will know. Like a child. The child can know themselves and the parent can also know.
How will people know? Either he'll know or you're saying either he will know or people will know. Little
higher intellect will know.
Acha, his higher intellect.
No. Anybody with a higher intellect would also know.
Okay. Yeah, understood.
Yeah, Malti, you were saying something?
I was saying that it's not, according to me, it's not necessary that even the person would know. The person may also be, may not realize that it is from a craving.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, that it's only exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. The person is always on the cusp.
Yeah, exactly.
It may be craving, and for everything in life. When you're taking that extra chapati, is it craving or understanding? When you're saying something to somebody, is it craving or understanding? At every step in life, we are all of us met with this. And the problem of life is we go with the craving because it's too much for us. Sometimes it becomes too much. We can't, we have no control over ourselves not to do that. And you've done it before you realize what happened. And then of course the consequences. If you did something without understanding, meet the consequences. The other irritating problem is when we meet the consequences, we don't say, I'm a fool, I did stupid things, so I'm meeting this consequence. We will say, he is bad, he is bad, he did that, he did that, he did that. So many ideas we have in our head.
So it means if we take the responsibility of what we are doing, it's okay, we know what we have done. Even if we have done wrong, but I am responsible, so next time I'll take care, maybe. That can, taking responsibility.
Now, this point was when you meet the consequences, don't blame anyone else because you did.
You did it. Fine.
You say, okay, I had a fight with my husband. And don't say he's hot-tempered, he's this, he's that. Say, I did it.
I did. Taking
because,
it.
Okay, if there is fire and I'm stupid enough to put my hand in the fire, I can't blame the fire. The fire is hot.
Right.
We will say, oh, this fire is so hot, it burned my hand. And that's right, the fire is hot and it did burn your hand. But we don't think, why am I stupid enough to put my hand in that fire?
So if I am having again and again craving for something, means my knowledge is not digested. That is a yardstick.
Some points, otherwise it won't be clear. First is, it's difficult for us to tell whether it is a craving or understanding. That was first point. But whatever you did it on, either you're craving or you're understanding, the consequences are coming to you. When the consequences come to you, understand it was your doing. It wasn't the other person or the circumstance or the situation.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Deepak Sethi?
Yeah, Janki ji, still need a little bit of clarification on the craving and understanding discussion that we are having. And I'm pushing Bharat's point that when he said that craving...
You're also coming over every day now.
No. I'm not pushing that point. I'm pushing the point that he's raised about the craving part. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, at this rate, you will be the Pied Piper and the entire class will be coming to your class, your place. Okay, sorry. So the issue really here is that Bharat said that would it be fair to say that we said craving also is your understanding, because what you are doing is your understanding. That's the basic thing, because before this we were thinking understanding is one thing and craving is another. Now we said no, craving is also a form of understanding. Now we are dissecting whether that understanding, Bharat said, classified to say correct understanding and wrong understanding, right? And then you said no, let's better to say higher understanding and lower understanding, right? So I'm now taking that point on to make a distinction. Let's take the example of eating. That is what we've been kind of discussing and digesting, etc. We could say that when a person has sattvic food at a sattvic time, that is the correct way to ingest food for the best digestion and best, kind of growth and that kind of a thing. But that's the higher level, let's say. A lower level can be that you are having food which is not exactly sattvic, but it's at a lower level. So compared to that level, this is a lower level. Now there is still, to use the lower continuum, there's still a lower level where you're actually having food which you should not be having in your condition. For example, a person smoking a cigarette when he has all the problems, a diabetic, having, sweets and chocolates beyond, whatever may be allowed to him. Now that, in our continuum, we would call that as not lower knowledge, but we would say that is wrong knowledge. Because if he's having it out of understanding, then he's saying that no, this chocolate will not harm me, or this intake of 10 cigarettes will not harm me, and that's wrong knowledge. There's nothing lower about it. So can you just make this distinction between the lower part and the wrong part?
Yeah, you're muted.
Who muted me? Okay. So there is your thesis is there is higher and lower knowledge, but there's also wrong knowledge. That's your thesis, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is how Bharat also started.
Yeah, but there is no wrong knowledge in that. It all depends on the context in which you're speaking. When we are saying it is your understanding, when a person smokes, it is his understanding that this is the highest joy for him. Okay? This is his concept, this is his understanding. And from that understanding develops the craving, which is the most natural thing, to have that thing which is the highest joy. So we are now referring to his own understanding or comprehension of something. So there is no higher or low, there is no wrong as an absolute wrong, because it is possible for other people to have even lower. Somebody else may think my highest joy is murdering somebody. So this guy is only killing himself. The other guy is killing other people. So the guy who's smoking is killing himself, but the murderer is killing the other people. Right? So at what point would we say this is the lowest? There's always going to be something lower. So I said, no, what is lower than murdering somebody? Well, torturing them and murdering them. Right? So you can keep making it lower and lower, or you can keep making it higher and higher. And that's the point of relative knowledge. And each one, wherever they are on that step. So assume a ladder. Everybody's on that ladder. Okay? Now, when they're on that ladder, they're doing something on that ladder, or on that rung. On each rung, each one of us is doing something. On that rung, okay, suppose there's a person who thinks smoking is the highest joy. Now, if he's smoking, is he smoking out of an understanding merely, which he has to have? Or is he smoking out of craving? Even if you have wrong knowledge or lower knowledge, whatever you want to call it at this stage. But he uses his discrimination. Okay, I like smoking. I'm going to smoke. And I think it's fine to smoke 1 cigarette a day. You will still be better off than a sattvic person who's eating the right food but eating too much of it. Right? So at every rung on that ladder, we have the capacity to use either the mind or the intellect. And your job on that rung is to use your intellect. So if we consistently do that, we keep moving up, or at least if we don't move up, because whatever you chose was so silly, then at least you stay stable on your rung. You don't die on your rung.
Yeah. So in this example, you said there are two dimensions. One is, I consider smoking to give me the highest joy. That's a very personal thing. To the other person, smoking is the worst thing you could do. That's a personal thing. But then there is a knowledge of the item under question, let's say a cigarette, of how it impacts your health, etc. Now, there, it seems that either that knowledge is right, or the knowledge is, meaning as per that knowledge, which is kind of universal and tried and tested, that either that intake is right or that intake is wrong. So I can understand that on the first, parameter, which is what do I want, there can be gradations and higher and lower. But on the second one, that understanding that this is not good is universal. Now, I may decide to say that I am willing to pay the consequences because my joy is so much that dekha jayega, who knows, something, an accident may take me before, the cigarette takes me, and that kind of a thing. Now, that's kind of pond, I mean, letting my mind kind of dominate my thinking, etc. But anyway, let's not go there. So basically, I'm talking about that there is still the concept of some knowledge being right and some knowledge being wrong.
Okay,
The understanding.
Okay, I understand. You're now using this knowledge in the sense of information or science or something like that.
Yes,
Science
yes.
versus superstition. Superstition is wrong, science is right. Right? You're using it like that. But we're not talking about that. We are talking about the understanding that's driving our lives. An understanding of we're not talking about objective knowledge, but our understanding of our understanding which drives our life, our understanding about where am I getting pleasure from and where am I not getting pleasure from. It is my subjective understanding that we're referring to, not superstition versus science. There you're right. Obviously, superstition is wrong, science is right. If somebody says that, I don't know what, God created the world 6,000 years ago, and somebody else says, no, the Big Bang created the world 4.3 billion years ago, 4.3, 4.4, what is it, billion years ago, then we would rather go with what they say, what we have evidence for, let us say. So that way, yes, but that's not the kind of knowledge we're talking about. We're talking our own knowledge, subjective knowledge.
So this understanding we are talking about is our knowledge of a subjective issue per se.
Yes, like what according to me is the highest good, the best thing.
Yeah, then it makes sense. Yeah. Then higher and lower makes sense. Yeah, because it cannot be right or wrong. It can just be somewhere on the ladder.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That clarifies. Thank you.
Yeah, Komal?
Yes, regarding this, something is coming to the mind which I want to clarify here. Like some people, they are too much attached to their body and all, so the food will affect them more. But there were some evolved saints and all, even if they do wrong, like वो वाला example था Krishna and कि आजीवन stati वाला, not that will fit here actually. Like some evolved people, they don't care so much about the body. So they don't care so much about the food also, and the food doesn't affect them also. Can we put it here like that? If you are too attached to your body and all, every food will affect you. But if you are not, like you're thinking you are beyond body and you're not this really body, so that food will not affect you that much. That understanding of body, not having body is more than craving for food. It's not craving, understanding for food.
Well, I don't know,
I'm
because
trying to relate.
Yeah, instead of going into unknowns, why not see it like this? A sage is disinterested in, let us say, food. Okay, so he's okay. You aaj chapati de di, aaj chawal de diya, he's okay. Okay,
right.
you give him bread, you give him, he's okay with it. So he's all right. But so let's say he has conquered that much. But in the seat of meditation, he's fallen in love with the thought of God. So now he can't give up the thought of God, and therefore he cannot realize the self. So at every stage, what you have conquered is fine. But wherever you are on the ground, you have to know you're going by your intellect and not by your mind. Because you have to conquer your run. Like every student in class has to pass his exam, right? First standard has to pass his exam, 10th standard has to pass his exam, MA person has to pass his exam.
Yeah, it's everybody's own individual choice.
Yes. So they're all at different levels, but the fundamental stays the same, that their mind will crave for something and their intellect will tell them what is right and wrong at every stage. So our job is to do what is right at every stage. We can look down on those lower than us on the ground and say, oh, look at the mess they're doing. But we may be doing principally the same thing. We are also functioning on craving.
Right. Thank you.
So now let's go further and read the rest of the summary. The yardstick for knowledge is that actions come from understanding and not a craving. Thoughtlessness is ultimate knowledge. So what is the highest point of knowledge? Where there are no thoughts at all. Now given below are some exercises for reflection. Exercises for reflection means that you're doing these exercises as a method to think, to force yourself to think. So the first one is take a situation where you and your spouse or parent, depending on what is your age, think differently. Very different views on some common situation. Examine both points of views for the hidden persuaders. Read up on the issue and think about it further. Do you notice anything new in your stance? All right, so any issue that you may have a disagreement with your family, first write down what is that disagreement. Examine both points of view. Understand what kind of thinking is making somebody, both yourself and the other party, come to these conclusions. And then you can get some objective facts on it. And then see how you think about it now. What made you earlier hold that view and what makes you now hold this view? What has changed? I hope you can answer this question. You had a view earlier, now you let us say you have a new view. In the same matter about that disagreement, what changed? What created that change?
Your understanding?
Change, understand. Yes. First, it was driven by desire. Hopefully, if you've done it properly. So you all have to figure this out on yourself. I don't know why I'm talking about this. So figure it out for yourself. So that you get it. Like, how much will you listen after all, right? Something has to become subjective and then you get what it's about. The third one we can try is recall a book you read 5 years ago. How much of it do you remember? Remember, the word is remember. Why have you forgotten that much? What can be done with future books? I hope you all know the answer to this question, but if you don't know the answer to this question, then please think about it. This is very convenient. We're finishing this book just as the next one is coming out. Isn't this an amazing coincidence? Oh, we have a lot to do actually.
Congratulations, Jankiji.
Long, yeah, it's still to come out. It's gone to for layout at the moment. So hopefully in Jan we'll have the new book, but I doubt whether we'll have finished our book by Jan. So we'll see it then. Okay, so I hope this chapter has been clear where we have spoken about knowledge. What is knowledge is that the very desires change. When the desires change, what has changed?
Your understanding.
Understanding.
When you take knowledge, the understanding changes. Right? When the understanding changes, desires change. When desires change, what changes?
Actions.
Actions change. So true knowledge is
When actions change.
when actions change.
Action and behavior change also.
Behavior is action. It's the same.
Right.
So when your behavior changes, that's when you know you've actually got some knowledge. if you just have information, that is not, that's nothing. I mean, that's some objective information you have, good for you. It'll help you have conversations with people. But life
That's like you said, hay on the elephant's back.
Hay on the elephant's back. Correct. It's a burden. Often our information is a burden to us. So, now, for instance, you are eating a black forest cake. Or a tiramisu. Tiramisu is like what? One piece is 1200 calories or 1500 calories. You have this information. What do you do with this information? It's a burden to you. Say, oh my God, this is so high calorie. You're eating it also, you're saying it also. So it's a burden. It's preventing you from enjoying your life. But when you digest knowledge, it creates further joy in you. That's the big difference. So gaining of knowledge is actually changing of desires. So when you say it's reflective knowledge, it's digested knowledge. That means, what is the yardstick finally? That behavior is changed. And the very, very important part of this chapter has been how knowledge is relative. We are all knowledgeable and we are all ignorant. And this relativity goes away when we realize. Okay, please do these exercises and see whether they help you further understand. Okay, we'll do the next chapter next time.
Hari Om.
Janki ji.
Hare Om.
Hari Om,
Thank
Janki
you,
ji.
Mother.
Hari Om Janki. Thanks.
Hari Om Janki ji. Thank you.
Hari Om.